Welcome back to the Metropolitan Opera and the James Levine 25th Anniversary Gala. As you can imagine, Maestro Levine is backstage now preparing for part two of this special tribute. But earlier, we had the opportunity to talk about his life at the Met. There are dozens of singers paying tribute to you tonight, Maestro, but there's only one conductor there in the orchestra pit. That's you. And I think a lot of people are wondering, how do you do it?
Well, if I do it, it's because of the inspiration from the music and the inspiration from my colleagues, which is so enormous that I guess it's very energy-giving. What's incredible is to put a program together which has such an array of great artists, great music, everything in different styles, and that's very much different from preparing even a very long opera that's all by the same composer, that's all one piece.
So you're having to shift gears from one piece to the next.
Yes.
And the orchestra too.
And the orchestra too. And the listener too.
The first night here at the Met was Tosca.
Mm-hmm. It was a matinee, actually.
Matinee. Mm-hmm. You remember it, obviously.
Oh, yes.
You weren't nervous?
No, and I thought, wonder why I'm not nervous. And then I started to realize I'd spent so much time with opera and with the Met Opera as a listener and viewer that I felt very much very much at one with it, very much at home in it.
Well, the key word, at home. When did you realize, Jimmy Levine, that the Met was meant to be your home?
I don't think there was a moment when I realized that, but I guess a lot of things pointed to that early on. I listened to broadcast, and when I was very young, I came to New York and saw the Met when I was 10 years old. And before that, I went to see Met performances on tour, and we had a wonderful summer opera in Cincinnati where a lot of Met singers went for the summer. So again, there was a Metropolitan connection there. And when I started to work here, I was conscious of a gradual realization of something that I'd always imagined, which was that I really didn't believe in short-term musical relationships. I don't think they're the best way to accomplish and grow and develop and bring about your own development or the development of contact with other artists.
Well, this leads us to the question of the orchestra. Everyone acknowledges what you've done with the orchestra, how it's turned into this amazing musical instrument. But people perhaps don't really understand what it takes to accomplish that. It's not just a question of years. Is it players? It is instruments?
It's very difficult to give a short answer to how one develops an orchestra because it's partly a process of really knowing them and them really knowing me. So that instead of it being where you go as a guest conductor and you do a few rehearsals and then you disappear until you come back the next time and do another work, this continuity means you work on one opera, you work on another in the same style, you put the first one on the shelf for a while and revive it a couple of years down the road, and it interacts with the rest of the repertoire. And so you can see it's in little mosaic cells that get connected and add up to a very, very big and deep contact and relationship.
Let's turn to singers right now. In this gala evening, there's a parade of the greatest singers, voices, personalities in the world. That's their testimony, their way of honoring you. And something that has always interested me is that many of the singers we're seeing today on the stage are young.
Yes.
Great talent there.
Yeah.
And yet, we live in an age, for the last 50, 60 years, we've had this little thing called a microphone.
The microphone.
You have one right there. Mm-hmm. There's no need for a young person to go out and devote themselves to a career where they have to develop and sing to fill a house with 4,000 seats.
If you hear a singer with a great voice and a great imagination and a great artistic comprehension communicate live in an opera house, there's no way to describe the flow of energy compared in electronic comparisons. There simply isn't. And I think in some respects, the microphone has diffused some energy in, for example, the Broadway theater. And I think it will surprise me greatly if that comes to opera in the immediate future, because I think too many people understand that that really doesn't have anything to do with it.
Well, then, a personal question. What does tonight mean to you?
What it really means to me is the chance to have a little bit of an overview from the past, the present, and into the future. And it is fascinating how so many different kinds of artists, different generations of artists, different kinds of music are celebrated in that program. And I hope it goes well for the most part.
I'm sure it will. And again, congratulations, Master Levine.